year to shift for us to take action. I know a lot of people are excited about this time of year, so it's a real honor for me to jump on. I thank all of you for getting your questions together and squeezing me into your schedule. I don't like to talk about myself a whole lot, but if they want more information on me, if you don't know me, feel free to go to keithkochner.com. I love to serve people. I love to help people live their greatest life. I do keynoting, I do consulting. We have our own curriculums. Many of you have heard about our 2-day Live Your Greatest Life event. We have mentorfish.com. I'm a steward of 2 other companies as well. But I just love to help people live their greatest life in all capacities. So anytime I have an opportunity to serve, Don, I love it. I know when we met in Oklahoma City not that long ago, we just connected. And so I loved serving people. I love your company. I've been blessed to meet a lot of great people, have dinner with Joni. I mean, when I get connected to a company, I kind of, I like to have fun. So I like to connect with people I know that have the same vision, same quality, same value, same faith, all of those things. And you guys have such a great company. And so I love serving people. So I'm here to be of servant tonight. So you guys can ask your questions and we'll create as much value as we absolutely can. I mentioned this right before many of you got on. If you are interested, next Tuesday evening, I'm doing a special webinar on eradicating fear out of your life and out of your business in 2019. It's a simple little webinar. It's a whopping $19. It's just a fun deal to cover the cost of our staff and the production and the studios and all that kind of stuff. But we just are kicking off the year with that as a company. That's on keithkochner.com as well under events. But other than that, I'm just here to serve and create as much value for you and your business at the beginning of this year as I can. So Don, you can ask away, and I'm sure our time will blow by.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. And honestly, I had 3 or 4 people give me questions, and I have some myself. But
Great.
First of all, tell us how you even give us a little bit of your background. I've heard it, but I think it's really important to know why you're even have a desire to help people live their greatest life. What brought you here?
Well, one of the things I'm most passionate about is helping people live the experience that I've had in my life. And I don't mean by saying that I don't think people need to be me, but it's kind of like, who wouldn't want to go from a point A to a point B in life, whether it's in a marriage, a faith, a bank account, a business. When I grew up with a wonderful family, wonderful parents. I think they've been married, I think it's now 47 years. I have an older brother and a younger brother, but we didn't have a lot financially, so blessed family, love, all that kind of stuff, which I don't take for granted at all, but we never had a lot financially. I grew up in the basement of I think it was maybe 750 square foot home. I had carpet squares for a floor and sheets for a wall, that kind of thing. And I had less than most people. So I had this insecurity in my life that I was worth less than most people. So I battled that for many years through high school and then to college until I met my very first mentor. And he still speaks to this very day on some of the biggest stages in the world, 30, 40,000 people stages and that kind of thing. And he just began to pour into me that if we can grow ourselves, we can grow our knowledge and we can grow our faith. And of course, I have a strong faith background. So for me, many of these principles are biblically based. If we can change our thinking, we can change our life. If we can look at things differently, see things differently, we can experience things differently. So I went, from that humble beginnings to, stewarding 3 different, very blessed companies, a beautiful opportunity to give and a very philanthropic drive in our companies to give. And, we are able to give more and be a contribution more than we ever dreamed we would ever be able to be. And so it's just kind of like, I'm very passionate about these principles and strategies. And when people, especially, I know a lot of people in your company that I've worked with already, like Summer and Jenna and the Stitz and different people I've been blessed to meet. And, people like Melissa and different things, when they say, oh, Keith Kochner is great, they're not really talking about me. I'm simply a mouthpiece for a set of principles and strategies that I represent. And so it's those principles and strategies that have helped me get to where I'm at in my life. And I have a passion. I love business and I'm an entrepreneur, but my biggest passion is passing on these principles that changed my life, that took me from a point A to a point B. And it's not that I've arrived anywhere, so please hear my heart. I never teach from a standpoint that I've arrived, but I'm on a journey like everybody else, but I have some wonderful experiences and I've made some huge progressions. I always say I may not be where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. Joyce Meyer says that a lot too. And so it's just that kind of passion where who wouldn't want to go from a point A to a point B? And these strategies and principles that I've used in my life over the last 2 decades are equal opportunity employers. So they really will work for anybody who chooses to use them. And so my passion, I think, comes from, you asked me how I got here. I think my passion for business and my passion for impacting people's lives come from my experience of having experienced it. It's kind of like faith, like I mentioned a moment ago. Who is most passionate about their faith? The person who lived a normal life and then kind of found faith, or a person who was just, had a horrible life and just was down and out, and then they found their faith and they were saved. That person seems to appreciate it much more. That's how I was. So when these principles literally changed my life, it's like, you can't talk me off the edge. I've lived it. I've experienced it. I've seen it. And so my passion is just a drive to help other people see the same thing. And really, more importantly than seeing it, truly experiencing it, if that makes sense. Because when you can experience it, things begin to change in your life. I love that kind of thing. And then you get into the continual consistency with those principles and strategies, and you build momentum. So that's my passion, because I've lived it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Consistency is our team word for the year. So I'm.
Oh, yeah?
You said that. Hey, we didn't plan that, people.
There we go.
I'm going to kind of skip around my questions, because based
Absolutely.
off of what you said, it's triggering me to go to the end of my questions. In this kind of just entrepreneurship, I mean, we're all here, forget Synergence, just in business.
Sure, absolutely. You're all your own business owners.
Because what you didn't say that I heard in your training, which is kind of personal, and I hope you don't mind me asking personal questions too.
Not at all.
That, I mean, life hasn't always just been, you had that as a childhood, and then you started and everything was roses and perfect, and here you are with all these businesses, and life wasn't hard and you didn't have any challenges. And I think that's what is so important for people to understand in this kind of business. When you are a leader, when you are a business owner, that it is hard, and how to keep going whenever you have hard things happen in your life. So what would you say to these girls? Oh, my internet's acting funny. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My internet is kind of fickle out here in the country. What would you say to people? And if you want to share any of the things, that's totally up to you. I do remember some of your story.
Sure.
And how did you keep going? Because, I mean, this is like for me in my business, this is long-term. Like, I plan to still be doing this until you put me in a nursing home. So I know that along the way, I'm going to have family challenges. I'm going to have, personal things that I have to go through. What do you tell people? What tools do you give people to keep them going and stay focused whenever they have just really crappy things happen to them in their life? Does that make sense?
Well, that's a big question. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I think it's a very valid question, because success doesn't come without struggle. I remember I did a series. I did a training at Mentorship. I think it was February of 2013. So it had been 6 years ago. And the actual title of that training is called The 7 Steps to Surviving Your Season of Struggle. People always think that, that's why I think one of the most powerful things you can do as a leader is teach through authenticity. A lot of leaders, a lot of people get on stages and they teach as if they have arrived, or they teach as if they do know everything, or that life is only perfect. And see, when you teach from that level, or you interact with people at that level, that everything in your life is great. I call it the I'm blessed syndrome. You go to church, which should be a place where you can, meet people for, help and support and belief. And, you walk in and what does everybody say? How are you? Oh, I'm blessed. Hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm blessed. Hey, how's your marriage? I'm blessed. How's your business? I'm blessed. I call it the I'm blessed syndrome, because really I call it the theater of success. Everybody's just trying to act as if something's there that's not. But deep down, they're really almost ostracizing themselves, and they think they're a freak show. They think it's something unique to them, because they think they're the only ones that are struggling with these things in life, and everybody else's life are perfect, and none of that's ever true. So I think one of the biggest things that has helped me in my life is to teach from first person and share some of the struggles and the things and the hurdles that I've had in my life, because I've been working at this for 25 years. This has not been an overnight success. I always tell people there really are no overnight successes. There's just something about the story you probably don't know. You need to go back and read the earlier chapters, or if you ever do come across a unicorn or anomaly that actually is an overnight success, pay it no attention, because it'll be gone by the morning. But I think one of the most powerful things somebody can do when they're in a season of struggle is not try to hide it or act like it's not there, because life is a collection of seasons. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you ever meet anybody if you ever talk to somebody who only shares with you the good, run like the wind. Because see, when you talk like that and you act like that, you may not think so, but what's actually happening is you're eroding trust in the relationship with the people that you're leading, because they know better. They know life is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if you're always acting like everything's perfect and there's never a struggle, or, if you're talking about entrepreneurship or even direct sales, network marketing, if you come in and you hype people into the business and you tell them all the great things that are truly possible, because those things are possible, but you leave out the part that, hey, this takes time. There will be ups and downs. Businesses have yings and yangs. You'll get income. You may lose income. You may get a title. You may lose a title. You'll go back and forth, but the key is that you're going to progress forward. Life is not about perfection. Life is about progression. So see, I tell people all those things. So when they do bump into a hurdle, or they do bump into an obstacle, they don't disappear on you. How many of you had somebody in your business just all of a sudden go MIA? You can't find them. They're gone. They just disappear. Well, because they bumped into something that they didn't feel comfortable sharing with you or bringing to you. It was more comfortable for them just to disappear than to be honest with what they're struggling with. And so I always try my very best to really lead people from the standpoint of authenticity, and saying, life is a collection of seasons. I actually taught that topic, that training I talked about earlier called Surviving Your Season of Struggle. I actually taught that in the midst of probably one of the biggest struggles in my recent business career. And I wanted to teach it specifically for the reason you asked, Dawn, so I could prove to people that I don't only believe these things when things are going well, I believe them even when things are not going well, because when things aren't going well, that's the most important time to stand on principles that will pull you through it. And so, like Melissa, there's other people on the phone I know that are in Mentorfish. You can go and get that keynote and listen to it in the archives. And it's a very raw, very authentic. I actually had my studio and my camera crew bring everything up to my offices. And I said, I want you guys just to go home. I just want to record this at my own pace. And I just taught, and I just was real. And so I think one of the biggest things you can do to help your team and the people you work with to manage and survive their seasons of struggle is to be honest with yours, because statistics and science have shown the truth is people connect more through struggle than they ever do through success, because so few people truly ever tell themselves they've been successful, but so much and so often people tell themselves they're always struggling. And so I think that's very powerful. Personally, if you're asking me, like, Keith, what have you personally done? Like, what's one of the biggest tips you could give people to weather storms as you have weathered storms? That's an easy answer for me. Well, I'll say the second. There's two answers. One is my faith. I'm a very faith-based person. Without my relationship with God, for me personally, you ask a personal question, so I feel comfortable giving a personal answer. Without my faith in God, I probably would not be on this planet today. So for me, my relationship with God and Christ is the most important thing in my life that's helped me through the struggles of my life. I've built my foundation on the rock. So when the storm comes, I can stand. Doesn't mean the storm doesn't come. The storm does come, but I stand. Doesn't mean there aren't obstacles and pain and hurt attached with those things, but I stand. So that's my first, biggest, most important part of my life. The second thing, no matter what faith background you are, and maybe you have a different one than me, that's okay. But I can tell you this, the second most important relationship in my life that has helped me weather the ups and downs of my life, it has helped me create continual consistency. Continual consistency is the relationship of mentorship. The mentors I've had in my life, I started with one mentor. I've had as many as 5 mentors. I currently still have 3 mentors that I meet with every single month, because they help me manage my protocol. They help me manage my motivation. They help pull me through struggles. When I'm down, when I'm insecure, they help build me up. When I'm struggling, I have a protocol that I kick into. When I have those funks, when I have those days, I don't just sit in those things. I have a protocol that I kick into that'll help me pull myself out of those things. So in my opinion, it will not take you very long to be around me to understand that for me, mentorship is not just a fancy word. It's not a fancy name for a company. If you don't know enough about me yet, our parent company is called Mentorship Mastery. My nickname in the industry, Don, as you mentioned, is the mentor. Mentorfish.com. The name on the back of my yacht is Mentorship. It's a way of life for me. It has absolutely changed my life, because I put myself around people that are at where I want to be, that have something I want to have. It's impossible for me to convince myself that something's impossible when I'm standing next to somebody who's living in my impossibilities. Does that make sense? And so they've weathered these storms before. They know the way. And so they help me accelerate through things possibly more than I would be able to do on my own. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So basically you're
So to
saying,
answer your question, my faith and mentorship are the two biggest things that have helped me weather the struggles in my life.
okay. And I mean, like you said, faith is different for every single person. My faith is pretty similar to yours, but mentorship is something that really we just have to reach out and ask for. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
all around us everywhere. So what would you say would be other than plugging yourself, because you're a great mentor, but what advice would you give? What advice would you give to someone who's seeking a mentor in their life? Where would they go to look for that?
Oh, I can blow through these really quick. I have a much more extensive training knowledge within Mentorfish as well. But you can say, what is a mentor? How do you find a mentor? Once you find one, how to get into a relationship with a mentor? Once you're in relationship with a mentor, how do you maintain that relationship with the mentor? 4 different things. So let's blow through these really quick. And if you want more of an abridged or unabridged version of this in Mentorfish, we have all that. And by the way, I can actually shamelessly plug Mentorfish, because this is unheard of anywhere in the industry, by the way, just so you all know. It's a whole whopping $9.90 a month. Okay, so that's why it's not, I used to be on the biggest circuits in the world. I used to charge thousands of dollars for coaching. There was a time in my life where my ego was so big, I would not be on a phone call like this until God really convicted me and said, Keith, you've been so full of yourself, you couldn't not even afford yourself with where you began. And so Mentorfish is a philanthropic
Ministry.
Outreach, a cause-based business to reach people with these principles. So at a whole whopping $9.90, nobody gets up. Something you want to have, or is that someplace you'd like to be? How do you find a mentor? You look around that, because if you think mentorship, you think automatically you reach too far too fast sometimes. Back in the day before it was a presidential political thing, you think real estate, you think Robert Kiyosaki, you think Donald Trump. Now it has a political connotation too, but it used to be just real estate. Well, that might be too far too fast. But the reality is you look around for somebody that's just a few steps ahead of you. I have an extensive real estate background. So for example, if you want to build 2 homes a year, if that's your goal in real estate, you want to build 2 homes a year, who could be a mentor of yours? Anyone who's building 2 or more homes a year. See what I'm saying? So you look around for somebody that's at least a few steps ahead of you. They don't have to be the Donald Trump or the Robert Kiyosaki. They can be somebody who's a few steps ahead of you. You can learn how to get those 2 homes a year. Once you're building 2 homes a year and you want to build 5, who can no longer be your mentor? The person who's only building 2. I'm not saying they don't have any information about how to get you to 5, but if you can pick, wouldn't you much rather have a mentor who's building 5 homes a year than 2 homes a year? Your goal is to build 5. So see, it's somebody that has something you want to have, or is that some place you'd like to be, and you look around for somebody that's at least a few steps ahead of you in the particular areas that you want to have growth in. Once you find that person, you have to create value in their life. Just asking often doesn't work. See, it's our responsibility as a protege. I mentioned I'm a protege in 3 different relationships, and I love mentoring, but I love also being a protege. It's our responsibility as a protege to figure out what can we do to create value in the life of the one that we want to be mentoring us. Because see, the art of mentoring is a 2-way results producing street. A lot of people just want to have a mentor and think they deserve a mentor and think they're entitled to a mentor. But the reality is, when you really begin to accelerate your mentoring career as you grow as a protege, the people that you would like to have mentor you probably have a line a mile long of people who would also like to be mentored by them. So how do you get yourself in the front of that line? Well, the way that I've done it in my career is I get in line for what I can do for that mentor, not what that mentor can do for me. See, I get in that line first in my mind, thinking about what can I do for that mentor? How can I create value for that mentor? And I could teach all night on this, but I won't, because I want to get to some other questions as well, but I will leave it at this. I've done everything that's legal and moral to get access to the mentorship and the knowledge that I wanted in my life. I've done everything that's been legal and moral to get access to the mentors that I knew would accelerate my faith, my life, my marriage, my finances, my business, my impact, and my influence. Because mentorship is an accelerator. Mentorship is like wisdom without the pain. Mentorship is allowing somebody else's hindsight to become your foresight. Think about it. How much would you invest to have 2020 foresight? That's not even possible. Well, I'm going to suggest it is. We all think hindsight's 20, right? I have no problem believing that. Well, think about this. When you're standing next to the right person's hindsight, their 2020 hindsight becomes your 2020 foresight. That's why mentorship is so valuable. People think it's a credit card slogan. Don't leave home without it. I suggest never leave home without a mentor. Why would you take 30 years to do something that you might be able to do in 36 months if you're standing right next to the right person? So when you find a mentor, you create value in their life. I used to, when I teach this from the stage, I used to tease about my love for chocolate chip cookies. And I've curbed that over the years because it's not the most healthiest thing anymore. Never was probably, but I've become more health conscious over the years. So I talk about, I tease about my love for chocolate chip cookies. Well, by the time I would get home from an event, my offices would be pounded with chocolate chip cookies or gift cards for chocolate chip cookies. And now I switched to sushi. People send me sushi gift cards. I remember one event I was at. I was teaching this huge event out in California, and I happened to mention in passing that I love Oric vacuums. At the time, we had a real estate company, and all of our cleaning people in our vacation management company used Oric vacuum cleaners. And so I just talked about how I love Oric vacuum. What I did not know in the audience was a manager of 5 of the largest Oric stores in Southern California. So by the time I got home, there was a new Oric vacuum at my home. And so they were just coming up with unique ways to be of value to me. And what do you think they got? They got my attention. So how do you think I got my mentors? I'm creating value. I've picked up poop. I've ran dry cleaning. I've ran errands. I've traveled for people. I've given cars. I've given watch. I've given pins. I've given vacations. One mentor, I generated over $3 million worth of revenue to have access to that mentor. It's our job to create value. So that's how you get access to a mentor. Don't just ask. Create value, and then they will want to pour into you as well. And then the final one, once you get into a relationship with a mentor, how do you maintain that relationship with a mentor? I'm going to give you a quote that answers it. Continual recognition of greatness will grant you continual access to it. Continual recognition of greatness will grant you continual access to it. What I'm saying is, the moment you stop recognizing the greatness that mentor has in your life will be the moment you start losing access to it. Let me tell you the quick story, and then Don, you can ask me the question if you like, how I came up with this quote. Many years ago, I had a mentor that anytime he mentioned a name of a book that a friend of his was thinking about reading, I would go get the book and read it and report back to him within 3 to 5 days on the value of the book that did not create in my life. About a year and a half or so later, we were at lunch, and he said, Keith, what do you think of the book? And I said, what book? And he goes, that's interesting. There was a time in our relationship, Keith, that if I even mentioned a book that a friend of mine was thinking about reading, you'd get the book in 3 to 5 days, read it back to me, report out to me what you thought the value was or what was out of that book. Last week at lunch, I told you the book I read that I love. You're asking me, what am I talking about? And he wasn't trying to bust my chops. He wasn't an ego trip. He was trying to teach me something that I'm teaching you all this evening. He asked me this question. He goes, Keith, have you lost the value of the greatness I have in life? And of course, I got extremely embarrassed, and I even felt probably a little guilty and ashamed. I started to have all the excuses run through my mind that I could come up with. But in that moment, I knew better to give an excuse. And I just had to, and I said, well, obviously measuring by results, I have got killed in our relationship. He said, Keith, when you get into a relationship with somebody, do you know pouring into you and creating value into you that is accelerating your life in one area or another, never grow casual. Even our military, casualness breeds casualties. Continual recognition of greatness will grant you continual access to it. One of the reasons I've been blessed in my life, I will promise you this, and Melissa, I know you spent 2 full days with me. Maybe somebody else on the phone has too, because I can't see all the names on this particular screen. But the reason I'm so blessed in my life, second to my faith, not that I'm a rocket science, not that I'm some superhero, super knowledgeable icon of whatever. It's because I've had so many people pour into me. I added it up at the end of last year, about a year ago, I added it up. I've had 673 years of direct mentorship poured into my life over the last 2 decades. It's that growth in my knowledge. It's that pursuit of me growing myself on a daily, continually consistent basis that has helped me grow to where I'm at today. And by the way, where I'm at today is nowhere near where I'm going to be in my tomorrow. So for me, it's like I'm just still getting started. But that mentorship is such an accelerator. So I highly recommend that you pursue mentorship, that you entertain having mentorship in your life at all levels. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I walked away, quote unquote, from the speaking circuit, where I was getting, huge keynote fees and charging thousands of dollars of coaching. and created a resource like Mentorfish. So literally tens of thousands of people all over the world could have a resource to plug into, so they could say, I'm at least getting started in that journey. So that was a long question for a good or long answer for a good question.
Great.
So
I
there you
love
go.
it. Thank you. You said something a while ago, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it feeds into this question. How would you handle an unmotivated team that isn't as motivated as you? No one is responding. So in our world where we have a team and we're trying to keep people motivated, what do you do whenever your team is like crickets?
A good friend of mine, he's one of the leading industry experts, specifically in the direct sales and network marketing industry. Here's what he says. His name's Barry Rosenthal by championsmentorship.com. He says, stop trying to motivate your team and go find motivated people.
Yeah.
Here's the reason why we get stuck. Because we find new people, we face all of our insecurities, our fear of rejection, our fear of failure, our fear of being not comfortable. So it's really on us. What we're trying to do is we're trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip. The only reason your current team is because you don't have enough other people on your team. If you had 100 new people this year in your business, you're not going to be worried about the 10 or 12 that aren't motivated. The problem is you may only have 10 or 12 in your company, in your business, and they're not motivated. So to get them motivated, because that's more comfortable than you going out and finding new people. So he coaches, and I agree with 100%. Stop trying to motivate your team. Stop wasting all your time motivating your team and go find motivated people. There's plenty of people out there right now looking for an opportunity to grow their income, to grow their life, to grow their dreams. But we have to get over our fear, which is one of the reasons why I'm spending so much time on fear and teaching on fear this year. Because when we go out and try to grow our teams, which I know that's what I love. That's one of the things I love about Synergence, that I'm loving serving you all. You guys do great product volume, but the sponsorship is what everybody's working on, to get out there and start sharing the business side of the opportunity, because that is where the long-term sustainability, the long-term revenue, the long-term residual revenue everybody talks about is at. And so grow your business and find motivated people, and the people that aren't doing what you want to do, you won't be worried about them. I remember my billionaire with a B, one of my billionaire mentors, I've had two. One of them taught me this: keep on numbers of 10. If you use the number of 10, 2 will always do exactly what you tell them. 2 will never do what you tell them. It's how you manage the 6 in the middle that makes all the difference in the world. But what happens is we try to force the 1, 2 person, the 3 and 4 person to do what we want them to do, instead of really focusing on going and finding the upper part of the averages. And that's why when you read Joni's book, she even says, 80% of your time should be working in your business, 20% should be managing your team. But in most network marketing companies, it's the opposite. People spend 80% trying to manage their team and 20% run their business because they're trying to manage unmotivated people. Find more people. I
think they also think 20%. They think running my business is the same thing as managing my team. So they mash it all together into one thing. And it's like, oh, I've been managing my team all day. I've been working all day.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with it. There are many different sides of running a company. Absolutely. It is part of the formula, but so many people make it the entire formula because it's easier to manage what you have than to grow something you don't have.
Right.
Sometimes it's easier to give birth to something new than resurrect something old.
Mm-hmm. I say that all the time. Give birth instead of raise the dead.
Exactly. I like that.
So, okay. Next question. How do we guide our team to incorporate this business into everyday routine instead of making excuses? For example, I do not have time, I'm tired, I work full time, without sounding bossy.
Well, again, my mind works so quickly. I heard a couple of different questions. They're all wrapped into one. One thing I will tell people, and this is a little side note, maybe a little extra kind of bonus for the evening. A lot of times people will come up with those excuses that you just listed. And I'm not saying that isn't the case, that those don't exist at any level. But more times than not, all those excuses are easier used and said than acknowledging that I'm afraid. Those are all excuses that will they camouflage our fear because people have no problem saying I'm too busy, I'm too overloaded.
Right.
But for some reason, people do struggle saying that I'm afraid. So realize, number one, a lot of times those excuses are fear-based, and those aren't the real excuses. It's hard to diagnose something if you're looking at the wrong symptoms. You know what I mean? So I would put that out and say, hey, sometimes when you hear those excuses, have a little grace and mercy and understand that it's not really the truth. It's them really in code words or code language saying, I'm terrified. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of what people think of me. I'm afraid of not having this work. It's actually a call for help because they have fear. Again, I'm seeing more and more this past year, and why I'm so passionate about this year, how much fear really, truly robs us of doing what we want to do. How do you get them to do it? How do you do it in a nice way? And how do you do it on a daily basis? One of the ways that I teach this, especially just network marketers and direct salespeople, is this. I call it doing the blend. So many people think they go, oh, I'm going to go do business now. And there are times for that. There are times that, they say, I'm going to do business and this is what I'm going to do. But when you do really have busy people, because a lot of times you do, a lot of times this is not somebody's only thing that they're doing. They do have a job. They do have family. They do have kids. They do have sports. They do have travel. They have different things. So one of the most do is teach them how to do this, the blend. I call it doing the blend. So you got to blend it into your consciousness, blend it into your communication, and blend it into your conduct. See, if it's not in your consciousness, it'll never show up in your communication or your conduct. And you can use this really in any area of your life. If your love for your spouse is not in your consciousness, it never will show up in your communication. It'll never show up in your conduct. And so you've got to blend it into your consciousness, which goes back to your growing yourself, growing your knowledge, understanding your industry, understanding your company, understanding the advantages your company has over other companies, understanding the power of this industry and what it has behind it. Because see, when you can blend it into your consciousness, you're going to understand something. Just like, for example, right now, I'm not condemning or condoning. It's an example. I can't see all of you, but I'm going to assume many of you probably have Netflix. Well, they just released this movie the other week called Bird Box. I'm on the Sandra Bullock, a Birdcage or something like that. They also put out a statistic that is it Bird Box?
It's Bird Box.
Bird Box. Maybe you've heard this already. One third of all Netflix members have already watched the movie in the first week it was released. They have 120 million users. So within the first week, a third of them watched the movie already. How? Because everybody started talking about it immediately. They immediately start talking about it because they loved it. So what people understand when they talk about movies, they'll tell anybody. When they find a good restaurant, they'll tell everybody. When they have a great secret or a great recipe, they'll share it with everybody. But for some reason, though, when it comes to direct sales network marketing, they get insecure and they don't share it. In my opinion, when you truly understand it in your consciousness, you're robbing people when you don't share with them the opportunities you have before them. It doesn't mean everybody's going to say yes to it. Nobody says yes to everything. But when you have something you understand and believe in, just like my principles and strategies and my experiences of life, when you've lived it and you're that passionate about it, you're robbing people when you don't share it. So blend it into your consciousness, but you've got to educate yourself to really become that certain in it and that confident in it. Then when you are that confident in it and it's in your consciousness, you will start speaking it more. You'll start talking about it more. See, it will not, if you just walked up to me, like if you sat next to me in first class on an airplane, or you maybe be down at the boat or wherever I'm at, and you would catch me somewhere in my life, and you start having a conversation with me, it would not take you very long to find out a couple things about me. One, I'm a man of God and a man of faith. Two, I love my wife. I love my kids. And I love to serve people. And I love to help people live their greatest life. And it's not me trying to plug. It's not me thumping somebody over the head with my Bible. It's not me always parading my wife and kids around. It's not me always plugging what I do or who I am. It's in my consciousness. And in your consciousness, it might be another word for your heart. As the heart is, your mouth will speak. That's another way of saying it. It's a biblical principle. And then when it shows up in your community, automatically begin to bleed into your conduct. So don't be so focused on just trying to do your business. I'm going to go out today to meet people. Blend it into who you are. Blend it into where you're already going, into your consciousness, your communication, your conversations, and your conduct. I remember this. I was doing an event not long ago for another network marketing company. And somebody was standing next to me, another network marketing, somebody that's not even in your same direct competitiveness. And somebody said something about, oh, my lips are so chapped, it's so cold. Well, this person, this other network marketing company, whips out your all's chapstick, the
Lip balm.
Synergence Bliss or whatever, the stuff in the tube, the lip balm. Yeah, the stuff in the tube. You want to know? And this lady was prepared, and she wasn't even leading with your company, but yet she was prepared. She's like, well, hey, I got some for you. And it was her thing that she had. So she was prepared. It was in her conduct. So I'm saying is a lot of times we make it harder than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. But when you blend it into your life, doesn't mean it'll be easy. But a lot of times we make it harder than it needs to be. Blended into who you are. And then it's always easy just to be who you are.
Right.
And then be that.
You know Leslie Boyd Bradley, you've met her before.
Yeah.
So
we just emailed yesterday.
Her thing is always the beauty's in the blend. That's what she's always taught from the first time that I've met her, is the beauty's in the blend. So, and I do believe that is what, now when I first started my business 14 years ago, I was so fearful of everything. But now it's just part of who I am and part of my conversation, just kind of like you said. I mean, people know I'm the Synergence girl. They know I'm married and have 3 kids. They know I'm a believer. Those things are just all part of who I am. And people don't really have to ask. They know if they know me. So I totally agree with the whole blending it in. It doesn't have to be compartmentalized over here and something separate from what the rest of your life. It really does need to be all inclusive. So that's great. Let me see here. What do I got next? When you have done goal planning with someone and discuss their why and they keep falling short, how do you motivate them to begin again without feeling like you're nagging?
That's a great question. And I have a lot to say about goal planning that we probably don't have time to get into tonight, but I will tell you this. A lot of people always look at the what, and the what would be the goal. And they get stuck on that. And then when it doesn't turn out how they think it's going to look, they get disappointed, discouraged, they give up, they give out, and they give in. So what I try to help people do, and I know there's a direction they want to go, and it's okay with having a goal. I'm not against goals, but I will give you this one little tip. Always keep the goal. Just be open to refreshing the timeline. That's one of the biggest things that's one of the biggest reasons why people give up in life. We always underestimate how fast we can get something. And then we give up because we didn't get it when we wanted it. That's our entitlement. But I'll tell you this, when I really work with somebody that has a goal and they're not making any progress at all, I stop talking about the goal and I stop asking them what they want to do. And I start asking them who they want to be. So I take their attention off the what and I put their attention on the who. Who do they want to be? Who are they wanting to become over the next 36 months? In the different areas that I teach, in our faith, our finances, and our relationships, our health, in all the different areas of our true abundance. Who are they wanting to become? Because a lot of times when you start becoming who you want to become, the what's follow the who. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so it's not so much about what you want to do, it's about who you want to become. And when you start becoming who that is, you'll start doing the things that will create the what. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
I could teach on that for quite a bit more time, but at least I'd introduce that concept to you.
No, that's great. And that's the first time.
And so that's another way to go at it. Because so many people get stuck on it. Go ahead. I think we were cutting out.
Yeah, I know. My service is just a little bad. Okay, that was awesome. I love the answer. Let's see. Some of these you've kind of already answered. How do you stay positive and how do you stay motivated? What holds people back from living their greatest life? What do you think? Did you hear me? Fear. Okay.
Fear. Absolutely. I mean, if you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to really push your fear webinar, but do you want to give us any kind of like a little teaser on some of that and talk about
absolutely.
Next few minutes. Let's talk about here.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to do what you asked me earlier. And I'm going to be very authentic. It was a year ago, it was the fourth quarter of 2017. So just a pinch over a year ago, I started really like waking up in the night. Like I don't know why it always happened, but like 3:30 every morning. And I would just wake up and I would literally feel this pressure on me. Like it felt like it was pushing me into my mattress. And my influence, it was that fear of, Keith, what if everything fails? What if everything falls apart? We have another huge entity that's, we've been using and working with for a couple of years now. What if it didn't happen? What if we lose the millions of dollars that we've invested? What if people find out you're not as confident as you think you are? I mean, it was just doing a number on me. And I was still living at the end of 2017 was one of the best years I've ever had. But I still, this fear was chasing me. And I just started, it angered me. I'm like, why am I still wrestling with this fear? And I just felt like I knew I was getting ready to go to another level, which we're going to experience right now, a little over a year later. But I just knew that if I'm still wrestling with fear, even at these levels, then everybody must be wrestling with fear. And so I started really doing some writing, and I wanted to start creating some curriculum. I mean, I love motivation and everything else. And, I've done firewalks. I've jumped off of poles. I've done, ropes course and all different things. But I found in my life that very rarely does overcoming a physical fear for a few moments really eradicate fear from inside of who I am. The fear of not being enough, the fear of what other people think of me, and this is just a little background on fear. We're only born with two fears. Science will tell us we are only born with two fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Those are the only two fears scientifically that we're born with.
Interesting.
If you take the average 40-year-old person, male or female, psychology and science mixed, with over 4,000 fears in their life on a daily basis. Over 4,000. 3,998 of them are learned fears. Okay, the study and some of those studies go on to show that about 90% of those fears, about 90% of the 4,000 fears, all go down to one root fear, the fear of what other people think. And so I began to get really frustrated when I really began to attach the price that I was paying for fear in my life. And I made an absolute commitment statement to myself that I was no longer going to allow fear to rob me of living my greatest life. But I didn't want to be just like motivational with it, like inspiration, like, yeah, let's not be fear anymore. Rah! We all go in and out. But no, I rather want to create a very practical, duplicatable structure that people could physically put in place in their life to help them. Yeah. Exactly. She's holding up part of our fear movement marketing that some people in 2018 were blessed to have some of our marketing dripped out on what we're releasing this year on fear. But I got sick and tired of being sick and tired of fear robbing me. But I wanted to create something that people could practically put in place in their life on a daily basis to help themselves weather the fear and push through the fear and really begin to beat fear, because I call it strengthen your fear core. Some of you ladies are probably better at this than me. You can plank, your core strength, the core. I cannot plank very long right now, but it's like that. How do you condition your fear core? Because fear is part of life. Fear is part of human nature. It's part of our consciousness. It's part of our flesh. So it's not like something you can eradicate, like make it disappear, but it's something you can eradicate because you become so conditioned to it. It does not affect you like it affects other people. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so it's not this rah-rah-ree. It's a conditioning of what you can do. And I've been using it in 2018. I will tell you this, 2018 was probably one of the most internal struggling years I've ever had in my life. Do you think it's an accident that I started looking fear straight in the face and stopped running from it and said, you know what? I am no longer bowing to fear. I'm going to make fear bow to me. Do you think it's any accident that everything that could get thrown in my face got thrown in my face in 2018? Absolutely not. Because see, when you take a stand to do something and live something different at another level, everything in life will come against you to try to knock you back. I'm going to tell you, I haven't arrived anywhere. but I become crystal clear that I am no longer bowing to fear. I am fed up and I am unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. That is the commitment statement that I'm going to be teaching from next Tuesday evening. I am fed up and I am unwilling to surrender. I'm consciously deciding to keep moving forward. And more importantly than that, I'm teaching hopefully thousands of people this year more than ever. And I may even be teaching a little bit more of it at seminar, depending on what they're asking me to speak on. They're looking at having me teach on a couple different things there this year. But I'm teaching people how to do the very same thing. So you, like me, can stop allowing fear to rob you of living your greatest life. Fear is a magnifier. It makes things look bigger than they are, but it's a deception. It's a deception. And just like anything else, when you build your conditioning for it, like running a marathon, you can be conditioned to perform at a higher level than you've ever been conditioned before if you're open to look at the fear. Most people don't. That's what I'm trying to change. So hopefully that was a little bit of a taste to it. But if you want to eradicate fear out of your life and your business in 2019 and beyond, I encourage you to join us if you are able to. Even if you enroll and you can't make the live broadcast, you're going to have an opportunity to have access to the recording for up to 2 weeks after it goes, so you can get those tools and begin to use them. It's still going to be the start of some other things we're working on this year, but it will really help you get your head wrapped around starting this year differently. But I'm going to make a commitment. Here's the quote that I'll leave you with this, Dawn. If you have another question, you can ask me, or we can start wrapping it up. But here's what I want you to think about 2019. At the end, next year, this time, 2020, if people could only look back at your 2019 and the only thing they could see is your footprints, would your footprints show them where your fear has driven you or where your faith has taken you? If you want a year of footprints that will show where your faith has taken you, join us next Tuesday evening, or at least get registered and watch it after the fact. I'm really going to start leading by example and showing people how my footsteps are being led by faith at a higher level than they've ever have been before in my life. And I can tell you, it's not an accident right now. After weathering the 2018 that we did, facing fear straight in the face and saying, here I am, I'm not running from it. I decided I'd rather die facing it than spend my entire life running from it. We're starting to have breakthroughs right now as we speak. It's not done. It's not over. But right now, as we speak, we're literally having some of the largest breakthroughs I've ever had in over 2 decades of business. And it's not an accident. Those are following a year of standing strong, of staring fear straight in the face.
That's awesome. And I think it also, I mean, we can use that for everything in life. For, I know, being
absolutely.
Just everything. Fear controls so much of our lives. Have you heard that song, Fear is a Liar? I'm sure you have.
Yep.
Love that song. It's one of my favorites.
Yep, Fear is a Liar.
Yeah.
I use this to overcome intimacy. I use this to help me have a better, stronger connection with my wife. I used to be afraid to be vulnerable. I used to be fearful of being afraid in front of her because she would think I was weak, or I was not a great husband, or I wouldn't be a protector, all these different things. And I had a fear of being vulnerable. And I've opened up over the last several years more and more and more. And so I've used this in my marriage. And my wife and I, not that we've arrived anywhere, but we have a stronger, more intimate connection than we ever have. And I was being robbed of it because of the fear that I had within myself.
Well, and people also have a fear of being successful. And I've heard that time and time again, even from some of my leaders that have done amazing things. They are paralyzed by the fear of success. And then they just stop in their tracks and they don't keep going because success scares them. So it does a lot of things. That devil, I'm just going to say it's all him. Okay, well, I'm going to.
It is. It all comes from the deception.
Yes, it does, for sure. But I appreciate you so much for pouring into the 9 or 10 people that came on tonight. I've got tons of notes. I'm going to get online and start sharing the link. I'm excited. I'm going to join that webinar. I have a basketball game, so I may have to catch it later, but I'm going to join. And did you say $9 a month just to be part of your mentorship?
At mentorship.com, it's $9.90 a month.
Okay, I don't know why I haven't done that, but I will. So
awesome. That's why we did it. We wanted to create something that we could truly reach the masses too, that the price point, the financial piece would not be somebody that would not be the reason that people would not have access to these kind of principles and strategies, because I don't own them. It's not just me. I've interviewed some of the most successful people in network marketing and direct sales, some of the biggest CEOs, some of the best-selling authors on the planet. Those are all in Mentorfish, and it's a whole whopping $9.90 a month. And you don't not have to be worried about being upsold. Talk to somebody like Melissa or other people in your company who's already a part of it. It's not a loss leader. Like the industry's it gets you on a small price and they try to sell you super expensive stuff later. It truly is a cause-based business to reach people, to help more people live and go from a point A to a point B.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I know that you sacrificed time this evening and it's late and all of those things, but I'm so thankful to you and grateful that you did this, and can't wait for seminar and all the other things for 2019.
You're welcome.
Anyway, that's all I have. And I just pray blessings on you this year, and I'm excited to see where we go from here. So thank you, Keith.
All right. Good night. God bless you all.
Good night.